Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of Paradigm Shift and Educational Comedy. And boy, oh boy, has it been an intense last few weeks. It's been very interesting, not only on the global stage, but for myself personally. The best way to start this off is I'm just going to read the description I wrote for this PSEC episode. Um, and of course, because it's a description of the episode, I'm talking about myself in the third person, so please forgive that. I'm not trying to be the Queen of England. Alrighty. In this episode of Paradigm Shift and Educational Comedy that we have titled as PSEC 2016, My Silence is Over. Time for intervention. Dave Kelso has decided that his silence is over. He will no longer bow to the political correctness and division attitude within the truth movement. There are people who speak all about unity, about how we should all put down our stuff with each other and unite to create a better world. They condemn divisionist attitudes. Yet, when push comes to shove, division is what they do in their actions. Dave Kelso will speak on his experiences with three people in the truth movement. JP of Wolf Spirit Radio, Chris Geo of Truth Frequency Radio, Sean Caron of Truth Frequency Radio. Please note that this is an intervention, not a call out or shit talk rant. Please listen to these people's shows. Please support their work. This video does not have the intention of being condemning. But Dave Kelso, that being me, based on the logical fallacy paradigms of, oh, well, if I make this stuff known, then it's not very professional, or if I say this, then it's somehow disrespectful or inappropriate. No, it's not. Not any more than telling an alcoholic that they have a problem. Dave Kelso still implores these people to consider unity. Does he think his words will be taken seriously by them? Nope, he does not. He thinks that his words will just be dismissed as being unimportant. Oh, that's silly, crazy Dave. What's he on about? Haha, he's so dumb. Let's ignore him out of existence, as GeneralTate is kind of calling me at the same time. But these words are to be spoken anyways. Dave Kelso still has much love and respect for these three people, so please do not condemn them, do not hate them, support their work. They are doing good work for humanity. And because GeneralTate has just tried to Skype call me, I am going to link him and catch him up because he was away. So I'm just going to wait for him for a moment, and while I am waiting, I'm going to say that, okay, I'm going to tell, my stories about each of these three people, my experiences with them. And again, this isn't like a shit talk thing or anything like that. I'm not going to be condemning. I love these guys to death. Like while we're waiting for Richard Hamilton to pop in here, let me focus on the good things first, okay? JP. He was an awesome friend of mine for quite a long time. I met him through the Journeys with Rebecca radio show. He's that Sean Connery sounding voice on the opening for Journeys with Rebecca. He's a really, really awesome person with a really kind heart, and he does the best he can. So, he's a really great guy, and I love him very much, like a brother. And it's unfortunate that him and I don't talk anymore, but, that is what that is. Chris Geo, really, really, really awesome guy, doing a lot of good work for humanity. He has a really awesome, successful internet radio station, Truth Frequency Radio. It's got a lot of good hosts on it. They've done a lot of good work for humanity over there and still continue to do a lot of good work for humanity over there. Chris Geo likes to talk a lot about consciousness and DMT and stuff like that, and the things that are mind expanding. That's weird. The video just like froze up on me for a second here. Hopefully the audio didn't freeze up at the same time. I have no way of really telling. But things that are that are mind expanding. So Chris Geo has put out a lot of good information on that sort of stuff. He's had a lot of really interesting, cool guests on his show, and he has helped humanity a lot. And Sean Caron, I was actually just on a simulcast with him in the last PSEC episode, and despite some technical glitches and things that happen with these sorts of things, you just gotta roll with the punches and do the best you can. Technology obviously is not perfect, but he is a really great, awesome guy. I met him through an anonymous activist on TSU. His name is Sitting Bull. Well, that's not his name, but that's what he goes by. He's anonymous, obviously. And that's how I met Sean. And Sean is just a really great guy, and he discusses all kinds of interesting topics on his show. And he really does his best to help humanity in the best way that he can. So I really, really admire all three of these people. And I think that all three of them are really, really great and awesome. And I gave Richard the link. I don't know when he's going to be joining us here. I guess I should paste him the description so that he knows exactly what he is getting into. Okay, so first, here is the story of what happened with me and JP. Now, JP, he's always been the type of guy that got really, really annoyed at like that, that spiritualism, that guruism, to where it ends up being a popularity contest to where people get all high and mighty on their horse and everything, and they're focused on content and ratings and like the typical mainstream dick wagging contest that goes back and forth and accomplishes nothing but division. And he always hated that attitude. And Wolf Spirit Radio's been getting popular. It used to be run by David Corso, another really cool guy. And he unfortunately passed away in the not too distant past. And he left Wolf Spirit Radio to JP. And JP has done a really excellent job with it. And we over here at PSEC decided to do some simulcasts with JP, because we created a Google Skype bridge mechanism that has consisted of two laptops, one that hosts the Skype, the other that hosts the Google. The speaker and mic connections, from both are cross-linked to, to establish a full connection there, and it's worked pretty well. And the last one that we had with JP and Wolf Spirit Radio, I think that went very well, and we had a bunch of people on there, and it was a really good roundtable. And we're also simulcasting with some other radio networks too, like Revolution Radio at Freedom Slips, and so on and so forth. And I thought it all went rather well. But then JP, he starts messaging me on Skype. And by the way, Richard, my video's lagging a little bit. On my end? Am I able to be seen and heard clearly? I have no way of knowing.
Your video appears fine to me. Your mouth is keeping up with your speech and stuff, at least on my end. So
okay.
Other than that,
and we're not echoing or feeding back or anything, right? Okay, just wanted to make sure, because I have no way of knowing otherwise.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah. So anyway, JP, he messages me on Skype and telling me about how horrible it was, and oh, there was no content, and all this focus on ratings and popularity and so on and so forth. And I was just looking at the screen like, who are you and what did you do at JP? You know what I mean? And he even, and he even started going on this thing to where he was saying, oh, you need to stop, holding Katerina back. Katerina Roy, another one of the PSEC crew, and one of my best and most awesome friends. You need to stop holding her back. She needs to fly on her own. You need to let her. It's like he, for some reason, he doesn't understand that Katerina is one of my best friends. I am not her guru. She's not my guru. We're equals. We're friends. We're really good friends, and we've helped each other out quite a bit. And it was really disturbing and disheartening to me that not only was JP latching on to the whole, mainstream popularity contest of things and completely betraying everything that he ever said about that attitude, but kind of insult added to injury. He wasn't even seeing that, like, wow, it's actually possible for me to have a best female friend. How chauvinistic, right? So I'm not trying to condemn him for this or anything. Again, we live in a world right now where there's a lot of freaking stress, and even the best of people can completely freaking snap. And we see people having nervous breakdowns and all sorts of stuff everywhere. Like what's his name? Santos Bonici or whatever his name is, like a really good guy. And he was a really good friend of Max Egan's, and Max Egan's a friend of mine. And then like Santos just like started like flipping out and trash talking Max and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, fast forward, thankfully, better angels do seem to have prevailed, because since then, him and Santos have talked and they're working things out. And apparently, Santos has just been under all this stress and pressure, and people can only take so much. I mean, you got all the false flags going on right now. Just everything in the world, all the politics, all the false flags, all the spiritual warfare going on, if you want to call it that. The poisons in our food and in our water and everything else. We're being bombarded, and it's really really hard for us to keep our wits about ourselves. I mean, there are even moments where I just feel like completely flipping my shit, and I just have to tell myself, okay, Dave, gotta calm down, because this is what the enemy of humanity wants. And you know I'm not going to give the enemy what they want through that. There's more important fish to fry. We need to come together in unity. We've got psychopaths running the planet. Why are we bickering amongst ourselves? And it's like, it seems like the slightest little annoyance, like, oh, you do or say something that slightly annoys someone, and they're like, okay, fuck you, alliance is done, I'm getting the hell away from you. And it's like, look, on this planet Earth, we're all going to do shit that's going to annoy people. Even your best friends, you're gonna do shit that annoys them, and vice versa. And just to make this completely fair, to show that the butthurt is not with me or Rich. Rich, list off a few things that I tend to do that annoy the living fuck out of you, that do not make you go, oh, well, screw you, Dave, I'm leaving PSEC. Fuck you.
Well, sometimes you have a tendency to rant just out of the blue for no reason. I'll be in the middle of a thought, and you'll be like, ah! Or,
But Rich, just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few little things like that, maybe a few inconsistencies, in some of the claims you make. But other than that, nothing that's so major that's like, oh, fuck all y'all, I ain't doing this shit, go fuck yourselves. It's,
Yeah.
part of being an adult is just accepting that other people have viewpoints and just learning to deal with them and just be like, whatever.
Exactly. I fully agree. And, in fairness on the return end, sometimes understandably, you get into moods where the stress just gets to you and you go opposite of what you totally normally say, and like just go like full-blown Hitler in private. You'd say, talking about, like sometimes you get into a thing that, you're like, oh, fuck all the Muslims, kill them all, but normally most of the time you don't think like that. But like when some false flag happens or something, you get really triggered, and that day, maybe you had a shitty day at work or other stresses or whatever, and then we get on private conversation and you go like, full blown freaking Third Reich on my ass. But I'm not looking at you like, oh my God, Richard is Hitler, I can't be friends with him anymore. I just see it as, all right, he's having a bad day, he's blowing off some steam. So, so then I just remain calm with it. And, I just politely call you on things. And then after you calm down, you're like, yeah, I'm just, overreacting a bit. I've had a stressful fucking day, but we don't become like enemies over it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Now, what's your opinion on, because you know a lot about our situation with JP. What's your perspective? And do me a favor, speak kindly but truthfully. Again, this isn't a shit talk session, so be kind, but be bold.
I'm not planning on I read the description. My personal opinion or take on JP is he seems like a nice enough sort of guy who means well and is trying and, is doing his own community service for the planet. But I think of it as kind of a shame in the sense that, a guy like that kind of deduces himself to easy annoyances when he's dealing with other people that aren't really in what he would consider his sort of realm of professionality. I think he's really discrediting himself and discrediting vast parts of the freedom movement by, relegating himself to these small crowds of people that he deems as worthy of, his content or his discussion. I noticed that with the radio show with him. I noticed it was, although he didn't say it on air, he didn't have, I thought it was kind of lacking in integrity that, he deduced himself to talking behind most people's backs and saying things, not saying things directly or, putting it out there in the open and, talking to people directly off air or off the show,
In other words,
that's just my honest opinion on that. I mean,
question. In other words, putting on a public face, but then in private doing something different. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same type of stuff the globalists do. And if you're going to have that kind of attitude, even if it's not intentional, you're not doing yourself a favor to the truth movement. You're not doing yourself a favor personally, because people remember that if you're shady like that, people remember, that, you're one of those sorts that's do as I say, but not as I do. It's kind of, people don't really react well to that. And you can end up hurting yourself in the long run if you have that sort of attitude with people that kind of, oh, look up at me, I've got this radio show, but don't you dare try to be different or cooler than I am, because nobody can be cooler than I am. I noticed with JP, he kind of had an attitude of he was impressed with himself and his accomplishments, which rightfully so. He's done a lot. He airs all over the internet. He's got internet radio going on in the UK and Australia. He's pretty much everywhere. rightfully so. I'd be probably a little bit proud of that fact too, but I wouldn't be of the attitude of like, you know, looking down on anybody and everybody that I didn't deem to be at my level. I would still be. I think personally that he's kind of lost sight of the fact of, you know, what made him great to begin with. It was the fact that he was inspiring people and reaching out to people that got him where he is today. And he's kind of allowed his own projections of arrogance to kind of get in the way of that and really block that. And me personally, if I ever get to that level someday, which I really hope to, and I think I will, you know, I don't want to lose track of that. I don't want to lose that part of myself. I don't want to lose that aspect of who I am. I still want to be and have the main focus being on, you know, humanity, not ratings, money, and profit. And I heard this quote yesterday. I can't remember from whom. Was it the other day? I was watching this video on Facebook that was really good. It was about a CEO of Japan Airlines. And the company back during the recession in Japan went through some hard economic times, and they had to lay off a bunch of their employees and cut a bunch of staff and paychecks and stuff. So out of his own humility, he cut his own paycheck and he cut his benefits to the same level that all of those people had been cut, because he remembered that he was one of them once, and you know, he didn't feel it fair that he get a raise while everybody else takes the hit. So he cut himself. And I want to say that, and then the Western media was telling him, you know, that there are CEOs that are making, you know, $200 million a year. They asked him how he felt about that, and he said, I can't imagine living on that. You know, I live just fine on $90,000 a year. I just can't comprehend that. You know, what, you know, I wouldn't want to live on that kind of money, you know. And it really struck me. And then he said something that really kind of hit me. He was like, you know, if you put profit before, I can't remember how he said it, but he said if you put profit before people, you will fail every time economically. Yeah. If you put money before your crowd base, and I see so many businesses, I see so many companies in this country that go off of that model. They put profit before they put people, and they're all in trouble financially, and they wonder why. They're sitting there scratching their head. They're saying, well, our profits are higher than ever. You know, we're raising prices and doing all that, you know, but yet they fail to realize the one crucial aspect that made their business in the first place, the consumer, the customer, you know, and they treat them like crap. They treat them like, you know, and if you have a company under that model, you will fail. No matter how long it takes, you will eventually crash.
Deviant apathy.
Yeah, deviant apathy. I mean, I've heard rumors, these are unconfirmed, but I've heard Boeing's in financial straits for that kind of practice, you know. It's just...
DeviantArt is in financial straits because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you put profit before people, you will fail. And that's something that I think the West is going to have to learn hard blow on once again, you know.
And if you put popularity before people, you fail.
Yeah, and if you put pride and popularity, yeah, before your viewer base, then yeah, you're going to fall. And you know, that's where the term pride cometh before fall, you know. Or the bigger they come, the harder they fall. It's that attitude of, you know, oh, look at me, I'm such a big shot. And you know, if you keep that going, man, it's not going to be pretty in the end, because everybody that did support you is going to end up looking at you and going, what the fuck have you become? You become the very thing that you so despise. You know?
Yeah. Anakin Skywalker.
And then before you know it, you're going to be looking in the mirror, you know, with a Darth Vader sort of syndrome going, what the hell have I done, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, it really takes that subconscious effort to be able to sit there and realize and go, okay, I need to draw it back a notch and really look at myself again and see what I'm doing wrong and see where I can improve. And if I'm not doing anything wrong, then I can continue doing what I'm doing. But if it turns out that somebody else is correct and I am doing something wrong, correct that and move on.
Yep. Any more to add?
Well, the only thing else I can add is if you don't learn from your mistakes, if you don't learn to look for your mistakes and your flaws, how can you ever correct your mistakes?
Yeah.
You know,
we are raised to view trial and error as being weak and bad and wrong and unprofessional, when really trial and error is how humans learn. So we're actually looking down on humanity itself. The valid process of human learning itself is being condemned, and then we wonder why we're in the situation that we're in. Gee, go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Precisely.
So now that we've discussed JP, and which, by the way, again, this is not a condemning thing, so everybody go check out Wolf Spirit Radio at wolfspiritradio.com. Please support JP. Please subscribe to, his station for, not too much money a month. You can, pay to have access to the archives, unlimited free downloads and all that stuff. So please support his work. Please support all the other radio hosts that he has on Wolf Spirit Radio. So please go check that out. Support his work if you can. Would definitely be appreciated. And show JP lots and lots and lots of love, compassion, and understanding, because God knows he needs it. So moving on to Chris Geo. There was a show called 32 Degrees of Insanity on Truth Frequency Radio. And the host was a friend of mine, Donnie Gilson. As far as I know, me and Donnie are still on good terms. He's just been sick and going through family stuff and, whatever else. And one day he posts a little public rant about how he's tired of this same division attitude within the truth movement, within internet radio and so on. And he's just not doing radio anymore. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So, at that same time, I was still experimenting, with the whole Google Skype bridge. And I was thinking to myself, it'd be really cool to have maybe a once a week, PSEC, radio thing or whatever. So I went to Chris Geo and I talked to him about it. And I said that I would like to fill that slot. And I told him that, I just wanted to, to test all this stuff out. And that if Donnie ever, changed his mind and wanted his, his slot back, no problem. I'd be more than happy to, hand that back to him immediately right away. And Chris Geo is just like, oh, cool, that seems like it'll work. So, I got set up with an account on the, administrative login interface for Truth Frequency Radio. And I got video showing that stuff too. It's pretty cool. Truth Frequency Radio has the most bad-ass setup that I've ever seen in my life. And Chris Geo coded that himself. So total props to him. His setup is slick. If every radio station out there had that kind of setup, oh my God. That setup is awesome. So, I had everything set up and everything. And then I posted a journal entry about it, about when, the PSEC radio is going to be going live and et cetera, et cetera. And I was explaining, the details of how I ended up in this position. And I posted the rant that Donnie posted very, very publicly. So this wasn't a private conversation. No confidences were broken. This is a public announcement to the public. And so I'm like, okay. So, I included that in the journal. Then all of a sudden, I find my slot completely yanked. I'm just completely kicked off of Truth Frequency Radio. And Chris Geo messages me basically oh, well, It's not very professional, airing dirty laundry about people and blah, 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 and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, what did I air? What dirty laundry? And, I told them that what I said in the journal about Donnie had posted that completely total public announcement. There was nothing confidential or private about that. It was a full-blown public announce. And then, Chris is like, well, I'm not saying you quite did that. I'm just like, and then, he just totally backpedaled and just went completely silent and he has not spoken a word to me since. So like, to this day, I have no idea what the hell Christio's problem with me is. All I know is that, all of a sudden I found myself yanked and, he won't respond to me. He didn't, we didn't block me on Skype or anything. He didn't, unadd me on Facebook or, or anything like that. He hasn't talked smack about me. He hasn't been, unkind or belligerent or nothing like that. He's just put this like cone of silence, this cone of ostracization, like, oh, Dave, you are shunned now. And to this day, I really have no idea, what's, God in his cornflakes with that. No freaking clue. But then, I hear him talking on the air, with people like my friend Max Egan. One of the last times that Max Egan was on Chris and Cherie's show, the discussion came up about, division within the truth movement and how people need to, put their stuff down with each other and, just unite in order to get humanity where it needs to go. And Chris was just like, oh yeah, Max, I agree with you. There's too many people that, they start to form alliances and then they break things off over the most petty, irrelevant things. And we need to stop doing that. And, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help humanity. It doesn't help anything. It only conforms to, to what the globalists are wanting us to do and da-da-da-da-da. So on air, he totally agrees with Max on that. But then how he acts personally on a personal level with people, it's like, what could I have possibly done that was so horrible that, he would want to sabotage, an alliance that was so horrible, in fact, apparently, somehow, some way, that he can't even dare speak of it, not even to me. Like, oh my God, So I don't know what I said that triggered him, but it's the same mentality. And again, I'm not condemning him. I mean, we were all raised in this Prussian educational system, Stockholm syndrome, Naziistic freaking society. But, that malware kicked in and just went right into the divisionism. And it's a huge problem within the truth movement. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Well, there's a lot of really good, really kind, really, really well-intended people that have paved the road to hell with their good intentions. And I really think it's time to stop doing that. That's why this video right now is in the format that it's in. I remember in the not too distant past, I'd have been so angry, and I'd have made some sort of like, how dare you sort of rant, and totally did the division thing too, and I would have totally made a hypocrite of myself, even just a few years back. So I mean, I recognize the malware inside myself, and there are still parts of me deep inside that malware that's tempted to activate that little bit of like, how dare you, But then I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, that's no, we're all in this together. We need to unite, I mean, there's gonna be shit that annoys me about people, that annoys people about me. It's like, the globalists or the elites or the 1% or whatever the hell you want to call them, they are banking on this. They are banking on that divisionism mental malware, because we have all been raised to be extremely judging. whether you were brought up atheist or Christian or Muslim or Jew or whatever, no matter what your upbringing or, where on the planet, you were raised, we were all raised with this divisionist, judgmental attitude. Oh, if they say something that doesn't conform to this box, shame, shame, judge, judge. And in the truth movement, it's even to the extent where if two people have two differing, points of opinion on something, they start accusing each other of being shills and paid by the Illuminati and psyops and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, come on, guys. It's like, yeah, it is a psyop and you're both falling for it. It's a psyop from the top 1% up there down to us, and y'all are falling for it. And, we need to stop. We really need to wake up, and we need to stop. So I've said what I needed to say about moving on to the final person that is within this discussion topic, Sean Caron, who runs the Awakening Liberty Show on Truth Frequency Radio, and who just yesterday, we all had a really good, TSU roundtable discussion simulcast thing, and we were talking on this very exact same thing. But here's what most people do not know. This simulcast was planned at least a month in advance. And during that time, in a Skype conversation, in a text conversation, I was asking Sean Caron just, some questions about how things, roll over at Truth Frequency Radio. Because, it's not like, my brief experience with Truth Frequency gave me full immersion and full, knowledge of how everything rolls down there, right? So I was curious. And I was asking some questions, and there were some things I didn't understand, and I'm just like, wait, well, if that's this, then what about this? Just typical process of learning, stating your understanding, acknowledging that your understanding might be a misunderstanding, and asking for the details, asking, to be enlightened with, the facts of the matter. And Sean Caron just, completely went off on me, and he's just like, forget it, and blah, 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 blah. He almost, canceled the whole thing. But, I calmly explained to him, I'm just like, look, I didn't mean to offend you or anything. It's just asking questions is how I learn. And he was just like, well, I just got really annoyed with your ignorance on, on how all of this works. And I'm like, well, dude, we're not born knowing everything. We got to ask questions. And again, I don't fault him for this. This is the way the Nazistic educational system treats us. And so it's how we end up then treating others. In most schools, critical thinking is discouraged. Imagination is discouraged. Creativity is discouraged. Asking questions is most certainly discouraged. If you try to ask any questions, you're automatically deemed as a troublemaker and a disruption, or you have ADD or opposition defiant disorder or whatever, how dare you ask a question? You cannot ask a question. How dare you? And so we're not only treated like this in school, but, 12 years of being treated like this, we become like that. Neural networks in our brains form to adopt that attitude, and then we become like that. So then it annoys the hell out of us when anybody asks a question. We treat our kids like that. We treat our peers like that. How dare you inquire? How dare you ask a question? How dare you? And that's the Nazi system. Our current modern system is based on the Prussian educational model. And the Prussian educational model is the model that Hitler used to deceive the people of Germany. And, if you do some Google searches and really, dig into the research materials on how just insidious and nasty this educational system is, it literally states that the objective is to eliminate critical thinking and creativity from the masses so that they become blindly obedient workers. so that for life they are in this mind prison and cannot see outside of the narrow little confines, that they've been stuck into. And this is this is not official record. The people that created this educational system went into great deal as to exactly how they created it, why they created it, what their objectives are, and why they felt these objectives were important. So we've all been born into that scam. So, we're not at fault for being born into that. You know what I mean? Nobody asked to be born into a prison planet. I mean, come on. But it is our responsibility that, whoa. Can you mute? Dude. Yeah, sorry about that. Wasn't expecting that to happen. Hopefully that noise does not come back louder. Apologies for that. I think he forgot to mute, apparently. But anyway, oh, come on, Richard. He just forgot to mute. Maybe he thought he muted, but, he didn't. I'm going to mute his end for him. Let's see what I can do here. I'm going to hit mute, and there we go. I muted his thingy. Haha. Sometimes I forget that I can do that. So, all right. Just muted all that noise out. So anyway, as I was saying, this, this educational system was developed by the control freaks who have ruled this planet for, for thousands of years. And, when we start to look at that and we realize that we've been sold a bill of goods and that we've fallen for it, we start to feel ashamed of it. Like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I fell for this. So then we end up recoiling into denial and then just continuing to go along with the program while simultaneously having knowledge of the program. And it creates cognitive dissonance and stress and confusion. And so it's no wonder why, people freaking snap sometimes. You know what I mean? The more that we don't face this inside of ourselves, it's like overfilling air into a car tire. You know what I mean? Eventually you're going to hit, critical mass on that thing and boom. So I don't fault anybody for this. It's the way the world has been. It's the way things are. We're coming into awareness of it. And as we come into awareness of it, it's our responsibility to talk about it and to ask, what can we do about it? So, as far as Sean Caron, the awakeninglibertyshow.com, I do believe is the address for that. And you can also find him on TSU. I do believe that's tsu.co/The Awakening Liberty Show. Although if you're already on TSU and then you do a search for Sean Caron, Caron, it'll come up with him and Awakening Liberty and so on and so forth. So again, I implore everyone, not just JP, not just Chris Geo, and not just Sean Caron, but everyone in the truth movement to kind of chill the fuck out and get your priorities straight, And honestly, look at the bigger pictures. What does our enemy want? And what are you all doing? Think about it. It's not a condemnation. Rocks are hard, fire burns. It's just an observation. This is what they want. This is what our enemy wants. Our enemy wants people like Chris Geo to, just be like, no, you said or did something that annoyed me. Goodbye. They want people like JP to be like, nope, I'm all about ratings now. You don't have enough content. Goodbye. They want people like Sean Caron to freak out. I don't even know what he freaked out about. All I know is suddenly I'm no longer added on frickin' Skype anymore. And the last message that I got from him was a bunch of question marks across the screen. And I'm like, what? Is there a question there somewhere? And unadded and you know, it just, you know, just like he almost did before. And, you know, now he finally did it. So it's not really an incredible shock to me. But, you know, do I personally feel that Chris Geo, JP, or Sean Caron will take anything I'm saying on this hangout seriously? Not really, because they all seem to have feeling justified as their primary objective, which is understandable. That is all of our primary objective until we unlearn and relearn. It's how the globalists think. It's how we're taught to think. They've given us their mind. They've hijacked our natural, authentic selves, and they've given us their mind. And so I don't fault any of them. I really don't. But I have to acknowledge that it is what it is. So if any of the three of them even bother watching this at all, which I highly doubt they're going to bother, they're going to see it and be like, nah, I'm not even going to deal with that. But if I'm wrong, and if they actually do watch it, if they get curious and they watch it, and they actually watch the whole thing, do I honestly think that my point is going to get through? No. I think that JP's going to be like, oh, he's unprofessional and blah, blah, whatever. And I'm going to get dismissed completely by JP. That's what I personally think. Chris Geo is going to think whatever he thinks. Oh, his words don't matter anyway. And he's blah, blah, whatever he thinks about me. And, oh, Dave's just, you know, Chris is just going to be like, I'm so enlightened and Dave is so below me. So, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I think Sean is just going to be like, oh, how dare him say any of these things? How dare Dave question me? Remember, he was annoyed just by me asking a question about, you know, Truth Frequency Radio. Can you imagine how annoyed he's going to be if he tries to watch this? Ooh. Yeah, so I really don't think any of the three of them are going to take any of my words seriously. I think they're just going to ignore me out of existence. They're going to quietly condemn me, and that's that. I mean, I welcome being proven wrong. I implore them to unite in unity and, you know, so that we can all drop our stuff with each other and actually unite and defeat our bankster scumbag enemy, instead of falling for the same tactics that Hitler used to divide Germany. You know, I would really love it if they were willing, but do I think that any of the three of them are going to be willing to drop their stuff with me and unite? No. Do I think that they are going to continue falling for the exact same tactics that Hitler used to divide Germany? Yes. And I welcome being proven wrong. Please, guys, prove me wrong. Contact me and say, all right, Dave, this, and this really annoys me about you, but I'm going to put that aside for the greater good of humanity. You know, it would be really awesome if that is what ends up happening. Do I think that that is what will end up happening? No fucking way. I really don't. Not at this point. Maybe a year from now, after we have enough false flags or something, right? But right now, nope. I don't think so. I don't think either of the three of them are going to do that. If they even watch this at all, they're going to look at it with contempt, and they're going to be like, nah, fuck that Dave guy. Who's he? You know, Chris Geo's going to be like, I've got 60 million viewers for my radio station. Who's he? His piddly little YouTube thingy, whatever. Who's he? I'm better than him. And JP's going to be like, oh, I've interviewed all these important people on my radio show. He only has a few important people that he's interviewed on his Google Hangouts. I'm more important than him. Who's he? And I think Sean is going to be like, how dare him contradict me or question? Who's he? How dare he? Forget him. That is what I think will happen. And I'm not the slightest bit mad about it. And I just understand that that's where humanity's at right now. So even if it's not returned, my continued love, appreciation, and respect for the three of you, please keep on keeping on. And I encourage all of you who are watching, listening right now, to please go check them out. Go check out the radio stations. Go check out their websites. Check them out on TSU and anywhere else on the World Wide Web that they might be at. Please check them out, support their work, and give them all the love in the world. Because in my opinion, these three people, though well-intended, are people who seem to just not be happy unless they're just not happy. So show them all the love in the world. So love y'all, appreciate y'all, and yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. So I'll just close with what I opened with. I'm done remaining silent. I'm done being afraid of the political correct BS. And if someone wants to call me unprofessional, inappropriate, or racist, or sexist, or a terrorist, or whatever triggly, puffy freaking statement that, someone wants to throw at me, cool, because you're only making my point for me. So throw all the hate and contempt at me that you want. You're only making my point if you do it. So it's all good either way. If I'm wrong and we all end up uniting, then awesome. I have no problem with that. And if I get contempt thrown my way, then I'm still making my point, and that still makes my point. That still validates my point. So either way, it's all good. So my love and appreciation to all of you out there in internet land. Hope you have enjoyed this little episode of Paradigm Shift and Educational Comedy. Catch y'all later. Peace out.